Okay, so let's get started making a landscape in the daytime. I find it easiest to make, a few basic shapes here, and then you can go with whatever it is that you need to go with. This will be some sort of hill or something in the background here, so I'm going to control click. I'm going to arrange this and bring this to the front. I'd also like to start showing you what the layers palette looks like. So as I shift this to the front, you can see that I can move the paths around inside of the layers area here. I could call this foreground. I could make another layer here called midground. And then I could just go take my middle ground, drag this up into this layer area here. So what I could do is go to my midground layer here, go to my pen tool and add anchor points. And then I can start adjusting those anchor points as I see fit to make whatever landscape it is that I want to make. Easy way to sort of start on hills and whatnot. Remember, you can go here to the convert anchor point if you wanted these a little more round. Then if I wanted some texture to my mountaintops or sand dunes or whatever it is I'm making, I could go over to this area right here. And I could click some of these. And there's the way that I could add a little bit of rockiness. What I'm going to do now is go back, go to my sky layer here. Make sure that's selected. Go to the black arrow tool, move my sky down here. And then I think it would be good to put a gradient on the sky. The nice thing about the gradients is in the gradients library it gives you sky ones to go with. I'm going to select this background, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to rotate the gradient. Now I can do the same thing with this grassy field if I want to do that. What I may want to do is shift the grass in front of my midground here, add anchor points to this again. So you've used 3 shapes to start blocking things out, and now you can start adding on top of that. I could start putting some highlights in the mountains here if I want to. I could go into the pen tool, go along here, think about what a mountaintop might look like or have some reflections. Join those together. Click that, double click the foreground, and then just go make a lighter tone here. You can start playing around with things like that. What I would also think about is putting a light source. So I might want the sun coming in here, maybe up in this direction. So now I'm going to make a circle. I'd go make that a flat yellow color, or I could go down into the gradients and see if there's some sort of gradient that I could throw on there quickly that would help make it look like a sun. And the brights area is a good one to get some bright colors going on, so let's pick the sun that way. Remember, we can go up here, we can switch that to a radial gradient if we want to. Go and edit the gradient as I see fit. If I want to make that sun a little more fancy, I could go to the star tool, add a bunch of points. Let's move this behind. An interesting effect you might want to throw on the star or the rays of the sun is make them a little more blurry. So you go up to Effect, Blur, and I could throw on a Gaussian blur on that. Make sure that the path is selected. Effect, Blur, Gaussian blur. Preview that, blur those off a little bit. I could also go and open up the transparency window and maybe lower the opacity of the rays. Just giving you some ideas about how you could expand that. That doesn't look that great. I actually prefer it when the opacity was higher. So I'm going to put that opacity back up on that. If I want to readjust that blur at all, you can go to Window, Appearance, and there's my Gaussian blur. I could double click on this, preview, and then I could lessen that blur. So if you put too much blur on it, you want to lessen the blur, just open up the Appearance tab, double click on the blur area, and then you can adjust that if you need to. Maybe even go to this one here, add effect, blur, a little bit of Gaussian blur on that. Other techniques to use for the peak could be, go to the brush tool. I could just go with my brush and start making brush marks if I needed to. And turn that brush mark into a stroke. I can go Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. Zoom in a little closer there. And then I can go and start making some slight adjustments. These are just some techniques to get you started building your landscape. Creating some perspective always helps. So I could create a roadway here or some sort of river. So I'm going to create a stream, and then I am just going to draw out a basic stream. The color doesn't really matter at the moment. I'm going to change that in a minute. Now let's just for fun go back to the gradients, and there's a water one. Perfect. And now I feel like I've got a good base for my daytime landscape.